Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. What's the difference between karma and dharma? And they're very interlinked concepts. It's like saying, so what's the difference between your breath and your blood? Well, we can talk about it. We can say, here's what breath is composed of, here's what blood is composed of. And yet the truth is, they really work very interchangeably. They work together. They work to keep us alive. You can't pull breath away from blood and expect blood to be able to keep you alive, or pull blood away from breath and expect breath to keep you alive, or say, well, I'm not worried about my blood. I'm only going to pay attention to my breath. There's an interlinkingness, not interchangeability, sorry, an interlinkingness between them. Same with karma and dharma. So we'll look at them very quickly. This is the stuff that year-long courses are taught on. But in brief, karma is action. Karma yoga, for example, is the yoga of action. The path of attaining that union, which is what yoga is, that divine union, through action. And it's used, for example, in comparison to bhakti yoga, which would be attaining that state of union through devotion, or jnana yoga, which would be attaining that state of union through study, through knowledge. But karma is both the action and also the effects of that action. So it's actually both. It's sort of the means and it's the end. I engage in karma and I receive karma from the karma in which I've engaged. So that which I do is karma, it's an act. The repercussions of what I've done also are my karma. I plant an apple seed, that is karma, it's an action. Tomorrow I have an apple tree with apples, that's the karma that has come back to me. And the literal and metaphoric fruits of my karma are the apples. Dharma doesn't actually have a very, very simple and really good translation in English. Dharma is a very complex concept. It's translated frequently as the right way or the right path. But it's much deeper than that. That is true. Yes, it is the right way. But it's also much more than that. So we talk about things like the dharma of water is to wet. The dharma of fire is to burn. It is the right way fire that doesn't burn isn't very effective fire. Water that doesn't wet you isn't very effective water. And yet, there's an element to it that's more than just a path or a way, that really implies an inherent aspect of who we are, that's more than just what we do, but that's who I am. As burning is to fire, as wetness is to water, so is our Dharma to us. So the Dharma really is staying true to what your nature is and fulfilling that. So if fire thought that it was water and tried to wet you, it wouldn't be able to do that. But it also wouldn't be doing its job as fire because it would be so busy trying to be water. And this is where Dharma includes both who we are and what we do. And we talk frequently about kind of the two levels of Dharma. And we have our universal Dharma that says honesty and integrity and righteousness and all of the good things, compassion and nonviolence and generosity and these traits that we could all, of every religion, of every culture, of every situation, say this is the right way. There's very few situations where you would say integrity is not the right way. Righteousness is not the right way. Honesty is not the right way. But then there's also individual Dharma. Fire versus water. A rose versus a jasmine. They're different. A warrior versus a painter. On the universal Dharma level, both of them should be honest. Both of them should have integrity. Both of them should have compassion. Both of them should be good dharmic people. And both of them should live with the awareness of who they are and not try to be the other. This is what leads to both misery and ineffectiveness. So many of us grow up wanting to be someone else or to be something else. We have idols. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, I wanted to be Jane Goodall. I mean, really, if you had said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? It wasn't so much a what, it was a who. I want to be Jane Goodall. Well, she's a great woman. She's done amazing work. Nothing wrong with Jane Goodall. She's a hero. And yet, it wasn't my path. But so many of us grow up with idols, with these visions of who we're supposed to be, what we should be. Whether it's a fireman, whether it's a policeman, whether it's a rock star, whether it's a doctor or an engineer. Whether the idea has come to us through our friend circle, our society, magazines. In my case, National Geographic. I had pasted on my walls. My friends had pictures of rock stars. I had pictures of chimpanzees all over my walls. Or whether it comes to us from our family, from our culture that says it is better to be a doctor than a painter. It is better to be an engineer than a violinist. And what's important when we talk about Dharma is to recognize exactly what Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, which is probably the richest teaching on both karma and dharma that we have. And when Arjuna wanted to leave everything and go away, and Arjuna gave very good arguments. Killing is wrong in general. And killing is wrong in this case because these are my family. And after all, it's only for a piece of land. For God's sakes, forget it. Who cares? Forget it. Krishna gave a teaching that said, he didn't say killing is right. He didn't say your family and your gurus are worthless and they deserve to die. He didn't say any of that. What he said is, you have one job, and one job only in this life, and that is to fulfill your Dharma. You are a warrior. You are not a monk. You are not a renunciant. You are not one who belongs in a cave in the jungles. You are a warrior. And the Dharma of a warrior is to protect the society. And that was not a global teaching. Many people misunderstand it, and questions come up about, well, wasn't Lord Krishna advocating violence? And it wasn't about that. It wasn't a teaching, thou shalt be violent, thou shalt kill thy family members, thou shalt kill thy gurus, thou shalt wage war over land. It was a teaching about one thing and one thing only. In that case, thou shalt understand and fulfill your Dharma. And Arjun's Dharma was a warrior. And that's where it was crucial for him to fulfill it. And so when we look at karma and we look at Dharma, we say, well, the Dharma is the why. The karma is the what. What I'm doing, the actions I'm performing, are based on my Dharma. And the repercussions I will get, the fruit I will get, again, are based on my Dharma. So, for example, you could say, well, taking a knife and stabbing it into somebody's chest is a bad act. It will give us bad karma. Well, that's true if you're a murderer, but it's not true if you're a doctor. That's what doctors do. They take scalpels, knives, and they stab them into people's chests in order to save their lives. And it doesn't always work. People die on the operating table. People die post-op. So in both cases, the end result could be death. But the doctor is fulfilling his Dharma as a doctor. And if he fulfilled it with integrity and sincerity, he's not going to get bad karma for the fact that this person ended up dying post-op. But the murderer, the robber, who stabs somebody to steal their pocketbook or stabs somebody because they're high on drugs or whatever the reason, is absolutely going to get the karmic fruit. So the Dharma is the why, the who. And the karma is the what, and also the what then. So what am I doing, and what comes to me after? There's a beautiful teaching that Pujya Swamiji taught me very soon after I first came here that said, engage yourself in karma under the shade of Dharma with an awareness of Brahma. And this was the mantra before I was given a mantra. Engage yourself in karma. Yeah, we act. As Krishna says in the Gita, we can't help but act. I could sit here on my hands, squeeze my eyes shut. I'm still acting. Acts of omission are just as much acts as acts of commission. So failing to act is just as much an act as acting. If there are people suffering and there are things that need to be done and I have the ability to do them and I am not doing them, That is an act. It's just an act of omission rather than an act of commission. But I'm going to still get that karma from the act of omission. So we engage in karma, we engage in action, ideally karma yoga. So it's action with the intention of that union. Under the shade of Dharma, with the knowledge of who both this universal Dharma as well as my individual Dharma, my duty, may not always be pleasant. Arjun really would much rather have run off to the jungles and meditated than have to take up his bow and arrow. He was prepared to pretty much do anything other than take up his bow and arrow. But that was his Dharma. As a warrior, he needed to do that. And as Krishna said, to die in the fulfillment of your Dharma is far better than to live happily, or quote-unquote happily, not real happiness, but the escapism happiness, in not fulfilling your Dharma. So we, under this shade of Dharma, of this is, I'm fulfilling my duty. It may be hard, it may be challenging, it may not be nearly as much fun as what it looks like someone else's Dharma is over there. How come he gets to sit in the cave and I've got to fight the battle? But this is our Dharma. With the awareness of Brahma. With the awareness of God, it doesn't matter whether we say Brahma or whether we say Christ or what, doesn't matter what we say. With an awareness of God. With the awareness that I'm just a tool in God's hands. God is actually doing it all. I'm not the doer. But I've been blessed to be chosen to be a tool in God's hands. I've been blessed to be used. And to allow ourselves to be used. And not to judge how we're being used. And why is that one getting used to meditate, and this one getting used to sing, and this one getting used to, eat grapes off a silver platter, and I'm getting used to fight a battle. But just to be grateful that we're getting used. And to know that God can look at us and know, you're a fork, you're a spoon, you're a knife, you're a hammer, you're a paintbrush. And to put us each to the proper use. So you're not trying to hammer in nails with spoons or paint pictures with hammers. But that God has properly chosen each of us for the task that we are best able to fulfill. And to know that God is always there with us.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me.
So the soul is pure. How does it get into this cycle of birth and death?
according to the Indian spiritual tradition and teachings, the cycle of birth and death, this cycle of karma, is what determines where we're born, how we're born, what happens, and how the cycle goes on. In a very short nutshell, because sometimes some of these questions are things like this one, that you could do, a 6-month course on how karma works, on the cycle of birth and death. But really quickly, in terms of how it impacts our lives, the soul takes the body in order to finish its karmic debt. Now you can think about it, the word debt isn't exactly right. If you think about it like a bank account. Now in our bank, that which you put in and take out cancels each other out. So if I put in 100 rupees and I take out 80 rupees, I've got left 20 rupees. It doesn't work like that with karma. Many times we think it does. Oh, I did this really bad thing, but then I did this really good thing. And so maybe I'm going to be saved from the bad karma from that thing that I did because I just did something really, really good. And so it'll all balance each other out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work exactly like that. The law of karma is actually very, very scientific. And a really easy way to think about it has to do simply with the planting of seeds. As we always say, you plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree. Plant an orange seed, you get an orange tree. If I plant a seed of greed, of harm, of selfishness, of betrayal, of pain, through my actions, so I cause that to another being, or I create a situation through which that happens to another being. Those are the seeds I've planted, which means that the garden of my life is going to sprout with pain, betrayal. It's not an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's not I hit you, you hit me, or I hit you, then somebody else comes up and hits me. But the pain that I have created, the seeds that I have planted, are seeds that sprout in my own garden. In the same way, if I plant seeds of generosity and goodness and care and kindness, that's what my garden is going to be. Now, here's the interesting piece. Most of us think about karma simply with the goal of how can I get good karma? What do I have to do to get good karma and stop getting bad karma? That's very simple. We plant seeds of goodness, good things come. We do good work, good things come. Not always automatically, definitely not always immediately. This is, of course, a common question. I'm so good. I only do good things. I help everyone. And look at all the bad things that happen to me. Whereas this guy over here is a lying, cheating, greedy, horrible person. And he just won the lottery. I mean, like, what kind of karmic system is this? And we start to think that the system is broken or it's rigged, or because it's not like that. There's some karma that gives you the results immediately. There's some karma that gives it after some time. As Pujya Swamiji says, it's like a short-term FDR or a short-term CD.
Then you've got some actions that are more like long-term CDs or long-term FTRs. They only mature years later or a lifetime later. And yet, on the deepest level, what we're taught is that ultimately, even the good karma, or the good karmic fruit, because the karma is actually the action, the fruit is what we get back, is in and of itself a chain. It's a golden chain, but it's a chain nonetheless. It's a golden cage, but a cage nonetheless. Because as long as there's anything in my bank account, whether debit or credit, whether fruits of negative things I've done and I'm going to experience pain in the future, whether fruits of great things I've done and I'm going to experience wonderful things in the future, either way, as long as there's anything in it, I have to actually keep coming back in a body in order to withdraw it. And what we're taught in the Vedic tradition, in the Indian spiritual tradition, is that ultimately the goal is to finish the bank account. The goal is not just how much positive credit can I accrue, because then I still have to come here in a body. And ultimately the goal is not to have to come back in a body. The goal is to have the soul just merge back into the divine, have the wave go back into the ocean, and just be in that union. So with that, again, back in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, forget it, I'm not acting. I'm going to get karmic fruit for this. I'm going to have to suffer the repercussions of this war I'm about to fight. And without going into a whole thing on the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says is, oh, and you think that by not fighting you're not acting and not accruing karma? No. Not acting is also acting. I can sit on my hands, I can squeeze my eyes shut, I can close my mouth. I'm still acting. Not just by the thoughts in my mind, but if there is something that's needed in the world, and I'm supposed to do it, it's my Dharma, and I don't do it, failure to fulfill my duty is action. It's just an act of omission rather than an act of commission. If you and I are walking down the street together and somebody jumps on you and starts to attack you, or you fall down and I don't help you, that's a choice I've made. And I'm going to get the results of that choice. That's an action. Not helping you is an action. And so what Krishna says is, you can't not act. Freeing yourself from these karmic bonds is not as easy as just saying, forget it, I'm going to sit this one out. You're always acting. And so the only way to actually free yourself from accruing more and more karmic fruits, both the positive and the negative, the pleasant and the unpleasant, is to recognize that we're not the doer. As long as I'm acting for myself, whether it's I'm getting up and I'm doing a job so that I earn money that goes in my bank account, or even something more subtle. I'm doing service, but I'm doing it so that you will appreciate me and love me.
I'm doing it so that I will feel good about myself. Still on some level, I'm the doer. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. Doing the right thing makes me feel good, then I can go to sleep. That's not bad. It's a fantastic motivation. Really. I mean, so many people in the world are fantastically successful and need to take pills to go to sleep at night. Spending your day doing something that at the end of the day allows you to actually close your eyes and go to sleep feeling good about yourself is a fantastic motivation. But in terms of the concept of karma and the cycle of birth and death, you're still the doer. And what Krishna says is take this to an even higher level. Take it to the higher level. The higher level says you're not even the doer. I'm the doer. You are just the vehicle through which I'm doing. You are the tool through which I'm acting. Like this microphone. It very kindly relays my voice so I don't have to shout too loudly and people sitting in the back can still hear. But when we're all done, it would be ridiculous for the microphone to stand up and take a bow. I mean, we all get that the microphone didn't do it. And yet, it would be equally ridiculous for me to stand up and take a bow. Just equally ridiculous on a more subtle level. Because I'm not doing it any more than the microphone's doing it. And that's the teaching that Krishna gives us, is if you want to break free of this cycle, whatever you're doing, you need to recognize you are not the doer. And every action needs to be just surrendered to God. This is like the yagna that we have every night before the arati, when we make the offerings into the fire. It reminds us, not for me, but for you. Not for me, but for you. So whatever I'm doing, if it's for God, then that doesn't accrue karma. And that's the way to actually, finally, make that bank balance be finished. But, and the very last point on this is, the enlightened saints say, Puja Swamiji reminds us all the time, that you can be free here in the body. The body doesn't have to be a bondage. Yes, this is what the spiritual tradition tells us. Yes, you should want moksha. You should want liberation. You should want to not have to come back. But the reason that we want that is because we suffer in the body. Because we identify as these chemical and electrical things that happen. We identify as our emotions. We identify as our histories. And so we suffer. And so the end goal is, let me no longer have to take this body, so I no longer have to suffer from this experience of separation. It's separation that makes me feel pain. It's separation that makes me not know that I'm whole and complete and divine. And that's when I suffer. Whether it's anger, whether it's ego, whether it's lust, whether it's greed, whether it's jealousy, these all create suffering in us. I mean, if I said to you, okay, raise your hand if you'd like to spend the next half an hour feeling really angry. I've got a magic wand or a magic pill. There's no one who would say that. Or how about my jealousy pill for half an hour? So we don't want to feel like that. It's suffering. And so the teaching is that we need to get out of this body in order to stop suffering. But what Puja Swamiji reminds us is, we actually don't. We actually can live in the body with the chemical and electrical activity taking place
but not identify with it. Not have that ignorance, not have that illusion, not think it's us, not suffer. We can attain moksha and liberation in the body. We don't have to stop taking birth. This body itself can be a vehicle for joy, a vehicle through which we joyfully live and experience our freedom rather than a vehicle of suffering. If we're able to shift into that same state of not being the doer, into that same state of offering everything to God, of identifying with the soul rather than the body. So we actually can break that cycle even while we're still here in the body.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
How do you overcome guilt that has arisen from privilege? We turn on the news, we get it online, we see it on TV, we see what's happening in the world. Children are suffering and dying of hunger, of lack of clean water, lack of toilets. Women are dying in childbirth. There's so much needless, unnecessary suffering. So many people who don't have enough. That if those of us who do are really deeply sensitive on some level, we're going to experience guilt. Why me? When we're honest with ourselves, when every one of us looks inside, we know we're not perfect. We know that we're not any more entitled to the good life than someone else. We know that we still suffer from anger, from greed, from competition, from jealousy, from ego, from all of these afflictions. And then we look at how blessed we've been. And there's an element of guilt. Why me? The only way to overcome that, there's two ways. There's the inner way and the outer way, and both of them are equally important. The inner way is to know that no matter how flawed I am, and we're all flawed, the flaws come only from my ignorance. At the core of who I am pure and perfect and divine. And the way I know that is that God is pure and perfect and divine. And since I've been created not just by God, God isn't just like a sculptor or an artist sitting there with his, workstation making human beings or making animals or making mountains. We've been created out of the Creator. The infinite is manifest in infinite ways. And so the qualities of God are the qualities that are in the creation. And so that's the core of who I am. All of the stuff that I see in myself, the anger, the ego, all of that, it's due to my ignorance. Yes, we all have it. It's sort of part of the package deal of being human and not yet being enlightened. But who I am at the core is divine. What that means is I am no less deserving of the bounties of this universe than anyone else. As a manifestation of the divine, I am entitled to. It is my birthright. God is not like a teacher we have to perform and please and then we get an A. Answer the questions correctly, I'll give you a gold star. Don't answer them correctly, you get, a ruler on the wrists. God is not taking our test like that. By sheer fact that we have been born, we are deserving of all of the bounties of this universe. We are children of the divine. That's the inner work. The outer work is, and, it's not a but, it's an and. I am fully deserving of the bounty of this universe because I am a child of God. Nothing to feel guilty about. And so are they. And what that means is that if they have not received it, it is my duty to do whatever I can in whatever capacity I have to help them get it. Just as I am no less deserving, so are they no less deserving. And if they ended up without it, they ended up without it not because they are less deserving, not because they are less divine, but by a failure of our society to provide for all people. Doesn't make them any less deserving. So if I have that awareness, it means that it is my duty. It's my duty even if I don't have the awareness, but of course, trying to get people to act without first being aware is sort of an uphill battle. So as I have the awareness, I recognize that I also have a duty to see in them beings who are equally deserving and to help them receive the bounties of the universe in the same way that I have them. And to serve as much as I can. We've all been given so much. We've been given way more than we need on a material level, and an abundance of skills, of abilities, of initiative. It's been given to us to use.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
When I broke my foot, for leaving me alone when I wanted to be alone.
And now, as a grown-up, I'm thankful for being able to take care of you, my dear mom, for taking you to your therapies, for understanding that sometimes you simply want to be alone.
Roles change without us noticing. That's why AARP gives you the information to provide even better care for your loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, and thanks for coming back and joining us for more of inspiration and transformation. How do we experience that when we're back home and we don't have that with us? Well, what is it? What is it that you actually experience there, that you want to hold on to? So what we experience is pure love, celebration, joy. How can we take that home? Well, the question becomes, why is it that we've lost that in our lives? Why is it that we don't have celebration and joy and love and connection in our life? What happens is, for most of us, is that in our day-to-day life, we are not there. Life is there. Life is happening. 2016 is finishing. 2017 is about to start. But were we actually present? Were we actually there for any of those moments? In most of our lives, life is happening, but we are not there. Our minds are in the past or the future. We're worrying, we're repenting, we're longing, we're pining, we're yearning. Or, if we're in the present tense, we're not in our own present. What we're doing is we are judging, comparing, criticizing. We're not actually present. And a really important key to remember is that you can only experience joy in the present. You can only experience love and celebration in the present. You cannot celebrate yesterday or tomorrow. When you are here on the banks of Ganga, what happens is we actually arrive. And in those moments, we are actually present. And what that means is we are able to have the experience of love, of joy, of celebration. That can go home with you. But in order to go home with you, you have to go home with you. And I don't mean just your body. I don't mean just your ability to autopilot your way through your life. But your connection. And what's beautiful about this is, for most of us, if we think about, what I need to be happy. So it's Christmas time, it's New Year's time, it's holiday season. We think, if only I could have that new toy or new car, or go on that vacation, or get this, or buy that. And we go through our lives doing that, never actually getting what we're looking for in it. And then you come here, and it's not like there's some shopping center on the way between here and the Ghat. It's not like people are, handing out new mobile phones as prasad after the arti or something. without actually acquiring some new physical possession, you've experienced that which we're longing for. And what it reminds us is it's actually within us, but we have to be present. So when you want to take that home with you, what I would say is make sure that some time in your day, whether you call it meditation, whether you call it celebration, whether you call it contemplation, doesn't matter what you call it. But give yourself a period of time every day in which you make sure that you arrive. And remember that the real joy comes in that connection. Most of us breeze past, whether it's our loved ones, whether it's our family, whether it's our temple, our meditation area, in order to get to the TV or to get to the computer or to see this or to buy that or to do this, finish that. And we're losing actually that which brings us the joy. So take you home with you and give yourself some time every day. And slowly, 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 that'll actually become more of a habit. And then wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, because here in Aarti, half the time, you don't even know the people sitting next to you. But what miraculously happens is you love them. You have this incredible experience of these random strangers sitting next to you. But at some moment, you catch their eye. And there's this connection, this smile, this oneness that we don't even have with our loved ones. Because we're not there. So that celebration, that joy is in you. But you have to be there. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.